The town of Greenhill was quiet that evening. The streets were empty, and the soft wind carried the faint smell of wet soil. Most people had already gone home, and the lamps lining the narrow streets flickered gently. Rayan, a boy of 17, was walking slowly along the edge of town, carrying the small satchel he used for his part-time job at the bookstore. He loved reading more than anything, but he also enjoyed the calm walks home, especially when the stars shone brightly overhead. Tonight, the sky was almost completely clear. Only a few clouds drifted lazily across the moon, casting shadows on the ground. Rayan usually walked along the main road, but tonight he decided to take the forest path. It was shorter, and he liked the quiet sounds of the trees. The path was lined with tall oaks and pines, their roots twisting across the earth. He had walked this path many times before, but tonight something felt different. A shiver ran down his spine, though the air was not cold. He shrugged and told himself it was just his imagination. As he entered the forest, the sounds of the town faded behind him. Only the wind, rustling leaves, and the occasional hoot of an owl filled the space around him. The trees towered above, their branches forming shapes that danced in the moonlight. The deeper he went, the quieter it became. Rayan loved quiet, but tonight it felt heavy. He sensed that he was not entirely alone. After walking for about 15 minutes, he reached the old bridge. It was a small wooden bridge that crossed a narrow stream. The wood was worn and smooth from years of footsteps. Rayan stopped and leaned on the railing, looking down at the water. The moon reflected softly on the surface, and he could see tiny fish moving slowly beneath. He always enjoyed moments like this. The world seemed still, and he felt small but safe. Suddenly, a faint blue light appeared among the trees on the other side of the bridge. It was soft at first, like a candle flame flickering in the distance. Rayan blinked and rubbed his eyes, thinking it might be a reflection or a firefly. But the light moved with a strange rhythm, drifting slowly toward him. He froze. His curiosity was stronger than his fear. He took a cautious step forward. "Hello?" he called softly, but no answer came. The light grew brighter, illuminating the trees around it. The shadows on the ground seemed to twist and stretch toward the glow. Rayan felt a mixture of wonder and nervousness. He had read many stories about magical creatures in the forest, but he had always believed they were just stories. Tonight, he was not so sure. The light stopped near the edge of the bridge, floating just above the ground. Rayan could now make out a figure within it. She looked like a girl about his age, but her form was different. Her skin seemed to glow faintly in the soft blue light, and her hair floated gently as if it were weightless. She wore a long, simple robe that shimmered as she moved. She looked at him with eyes that were brighter than any Rayan had ever seen. They were like liquid sapphires, deep and mysterious. Then he heard it. A voice, soft and melodic, spoke directly into his mind. "Are you alone, human?" Rayan's heart jumped. He looked around, but no one else was there. I am," he said aloud, unsure if she could hear him. The figure tilted her head as if studying him. The light around her flickered gently, almost like a heartbeat. "You are brave," she said. "Most humans would run at the sight of me. I don't know why I didn't," Rayan admitted. You are not like anything I've ever seen." She smiled faintly, and the light around her shimmered. "I am Lyra," she said. "I have been waiting for someone to hear me." Rayan frowned. "Waiting for someone? Me?" He did not understand. "Yes," she said softly. "I have watched your world for a long time. I have not spoken to humans in many years. Most cannot hear me, but you can." Rayan felt a strange warmth in his chest. "Why can I hear you?" he asked. Lyra stepped a little closer, her glowing eyes meeting his. "Because you still listen," she said. "You notice the world even when others do not. You see the small things. That is why I chose to speak to you." Rayan swallowed hard. His heart was beating fast, but he felt no danger. Only wonder and curiosity. Who are you really?" he asked. "I'm not entirely of your world," she said. "I live in the hidden light of the forest. Many years ago humans could see us, but as your kind forgot, we faded from view. Only a few remain, and we watch, waiting for those who still believe." Rayan looked around, trying to imagine what she meant. The forest seemed normal, but he now knew there was something more hidden beneath the ordinary trees and shadows. "So you are magic?" he whispered. Lyra laughed softly. "Magic is what humans call what they do not understand. I am simply what remains when wonder is forgotten." Rayan's mind was full of questions, but he knew he had to be careful. "Why ask if I am alone?" he asked finally. She looked down at her hands. Because others like me do not trust humans, she said. If they knew I was speaking to one, they would stop me. But you are different. You can hear me and you are not afraid. Rayan felt a mixture of fear and pride. I guess I am curious, he admitted. Curiosity is rare, Lyra said. It is what makes humans special. It is why you are here. The blue light surrounding her shimmered and Rayan felt drawn closer. He could sense the calmness and power in her presence. For the first time in his life, he felt completely aware of the forest around him. Every rustle of leaves, every flicker of shadow, every distant sound seemed to hold meaning. He realized that he was seeing more than just the forest. He was seeing something alive and ancient. Lyra stepped even closer and her eyes locked with his again. You must promise to remember this night, she said. Many humans will forget. Only those who remember can see us. Rayan nodded, feeling that this was a promise he had to keep. I will remember, he said. A soft smile appeared on Lyra's face and the light around her pulsed gently. Then you are ready, she said. Ready to know what most cannot see. Ready to understand the hidden world. Rayan felt a shiver of excitement. He did not know what lay ahead, but he knew that his life was about to change. The forest was no longer just trees and shadows. It was a living, breathing world full of secrets, and tonight he had met one of its guardians. The blue light glowed brighter for a moment, then slowly began to fade. Lyra's figure became less solid, but her eyes never left his. Stay curious, human, she whispered. And do not forget that the unseen is always watching. As the light disappeared completely, Rayan stood alone on the bridge. The forest around him looked ordinary again, but he knew it was not. He could feel it in his heart. Something had awakened in him, something that would never allow him to see the world the same way again. He took a deep breath, his mind racing with thoughts and questions. That night, Rayan walked home slowly, but he was not afraid. The forest no longer seemed dark or lonely. It was alive with whispers, light, and possibilities, and somewhere deep in the shadows, eyes like sapphires watched over him, waiting for the moment he would understand. From that night onward, Rayan would never be the same. The world held secrets he could barely imagine, and a voice, soft and glowing, would remain in his mind forever. The morning sun slowly rose over the town of Greenhill, spilling golden light across the rooftops and streets. Birds chirped cheerfully and the air felt fresh and calm. But for Rayan, nothing seemed the same as before. Last night's encounter with Lyra lingered in his mind. He could not stop thinking about the glowing figure, her sapphire eyes, and the strange voice that spoke directly to him. Every leaf he saw seemed to shimmer with some hidden secret, and every shadow felt like it held a story he could almost hear. Rayan sat on the edge of his small wooden porch, staring at the forest in the distance. He had spent hours walking through it before, but now he wondered what he had missed. The ordinary trees, the fallen leaves, the winding paths, they all seemed ordinary to everyone else, but he now suspected there was something more. Something unseen, waiting for the right person to notice, and somehow he felt chosen. As he got ready to leave for the bookstore, he noticed a soft glow coming from the forest edge. He froze, his heart pounding. Could it be her, Lyra? The blue light that had frightened and fascinated him last night appeared again, faint but unmistakable. It hovered near the first row of trees, flickering like a gentle flame. Rayan's curiosity pushed him forward. He dropped his satchel and ran toward the light, careful to keep quiet so no one from the town would see him. When he reached the spot, Lyra stood waiting. She had not moved, yet she seemed aware of his every step. The sunlight made her glow softer than it had been under the moon, but her presence was still breathtaking. She smiled faintly, and the faint blue light shimmered around her form. You came, she said, her voice like wind chimes dancing in the morning air. I couldn't stop thinking about last night, Rayan admitted. I had to see you again. Lyra tilted her head slightly, watching him carefully. You are brave human, she said. Most humans would not return once they have seen me. They would be too afraid, but you are different, Rayan swallowed hard. Different? How? You see more than others, Lyra explained. You notice things that go unnoticed. You care when no one is looking. You listen even when the world seems silent. That is why I spoke to you. Rayan took a deep breath. I don't understand, he said. What are you exactly? Lyra stepped closer, her robe flowing around her like water. I am one of the guardians of the hidden light, she said softly. A part of the forest that most humans cannot see, Long ago, humans and guardians lived closer together, but your kind forgot. You stopped believing in the unseen, and so many of my kind faded. Only a few of us remain. Rayan looked around at the ordinary forest, but now he could sense it differently. The trees, the grass, even the small insects seemed alive in a way he had never noticed. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for him to understand. Hidden light? He asked. What does that mean? Lyra's eyes softened. It means there is more to this world than what humans can see. The forest, the rivers, the wind, all of it has energy, life, and light that connects us. Most humans have forgotten how to see it, but some still can. Some still believe, even if they do not realize it. You are one of those humans, Rayan. Rayan felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. Why me? Why did you choose me? Because you are curious and kind, Lyra replied. You still notice the small things. You have not stopped dreaming even when others have. That is rare. Rayan looked at her in wonder. So you've been watching me? I have, she said. I have watched your walks through the forest, your quiet moments at the bookstore, your small acts of kindness that no one else noticed. I knew the moment I saw you that you would listen. That is why I spoke to you. The blue glow around her shimmered gently, almost like a heartbeat. Rayan could feel a strange calm washing over him. He realized that Lyra was not just a guardian of light, but also a guardian of something much deeper. Hope, belief, and wonder. Can you show me your world? He asked softly. Lyra's eyes sparkled. Part of it, she said. But you must promise to remember that this is not for everyone. Humans who cannot see or hear us often fear what they do not understand. If others discover my presence, it could fade and the hidden light could be lost. I promise, Rayan said. I will keep your secret, she nodded. Then follow me, she said. She floated forward, the blue light leading the way as Rayan followed cautiously. The forest around them seemed to respond to her presence. The shadows moved gently as if making room for her, and the air felt alive with whispers too soft for him to hear clearly. The path twisted and turned, and Rayan felt like he was stepping into a place that existed somewhere between reality and a dream. After walking for some time, they reached a small clearing. The sunlight broke through the tree canopy, illuminating a strange stone circle in the center. Tiny motes of light danced above the stones, moving like fireflies but brighter. Rayan's eyes widened. What is this place? He whispered. This is a meeting place for those who still remember, Lyra explained. The hidden light gathers here to remain connected. Humans rarely come here, but some who can hear us may find their way. Rayan stepped closer, feeling a tingling warmth in the air. The stones seemed alive, pulsing faintly with energy. It feels different, he said. It is, Lyra said softly. Everything here is alive in a way your world has forgotten. The wind carries stories, the trees remember old truths, and the light protects those who are worthy. Rayan looked around in awe. Why has no one else seen this? Because most humans do not believe, Lyra said. Belief is what keeps the light alive. When humans forget, the unseen world fades. That is why I watch, waiting for someone like you. Rayan felt a heavy sense of responsibility. So I have to believe? More than that, Lyra said. You must notice, you must care, and you must protect. Only then can the hidden light survive. Rayan nodded slowly. I will do my best. Lyra's glow brightened slightly and she floated closer. Good. You are ready to see more, but you must understand that this journey is only beginning. There are things in the forest you have never imagined. Some are gentle, some are mysterious, but all are part of the hidden world. As they continued walking, Rayan noticed small details he had never seen before. Tiny lights moved among the roots, whispering as they passed. The trees seemed to hum softly, and the leaves shimmered as if made of crystal. Every step revealed new wonders, and Rayan realized he had been blind to the beauty around him. Do you live here alone? He asked, glancing at Lyra. No, she said. There are others, but they are far away. Some do not trust humans at all. They remain hidden, observing from a distance. Only a few of us speak to humans now. I am one of the few who still chooses to try. Rayan felt honored and nervous at the same time. And what happens if humans forget completely? Lyra's face grew serious. Then the light fades. The forest loses its connection to your world, and the unseen world shrinks. That is why your role is important. Your curiosity and care can help the light remain. Rayan thought about his life in Greenhill. Most people rush through their days, never noticing the small wonders around them. He had always been different, though he had never understood why. Now he knew. His curiosity, His attention to detail, his quiet kindness, these were what made him capable of seeing Lyra and her world. "You are ready to learn more," Lyra said, sensing his thoughts. "But first you must understand the rules of the hidden light. Do not speak of what you see to anyone who cannot hear or see it. Do not try to capture it or prove it. And most importantly, never stop believing." Rayan nodded. "I understand." "Good," she said, smiling. "Then let us begin. There are wonders to show you and lessons you must learn. Tonight, the forest will teach you more than any book ever could." As the sun rose higher, the clearing glowed with a strange, gentle light. Rayan felt a thrill of excitement and fear. He did not know what lay ahead, but he knew one thing for certain. His life had changed forever. The hidden world had opened its doors to him, and Lyra, the girl of light, had chosen him as her witness. Rayan took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to follow her into the secrets of the forest, into a world that most humans could never imagine, a world where light, wonder, and belief intertwined. And somewhere deep in the trees, the hidden eyes of the unseen world watched, waiting to see if he was truly ready. Rayan stood at the edge of the ocean, the waves stretching endlessly before him. The orb glowed brighter than ever, casting a soft light that danced across the water. He could feel its warmth pulsing in his hands as if it had a heartbeat of its own. Every step he had taken had led him to this moment. The sky above reflected shades of pink, orange, and violet, as if the universe itself was painting a sign for him. He looked around, waiting for what the Queen had promised, though he had no idea what to expect. The orb floated gently above his palm, and then it rose higher into the air, spinning slowly. A soft hum came from it, vibrating through his chest. Then, without warning, a figure appeared above the water. Queen Leora's form shimmered like silver fire, her presence calm but commanding. "Rayan," she said softly, her voice carrying over the gentle waves. "You have come far. Few humans could have reached this place. The journey has tested your courage, and you have not failed." Rayan's heart raced. I am ready," he said, though a small part of him trembled with doubt. Tell me what I must do." The Queen's eyes glowed like moons reflected in water. "The orb you carry is more than a guide. It contains memories, knowledge from the stars that your people have never known. You must unlock them carefully. They will show you how to protect your world. But first you must understand the nature of the shadows that approach. They are not like anything you have faced. They are silent, patient, and they feed on fear and doubt." Rayan nodded, gripping the orb tightly. How do I stop them?" Queen Leora did not answer immediately. Instead, she raised her hand and the orb responded, projecting a holographic image into the air. Floating stars, distant worlds, and strange symbols formed a map above the waves. Rayan gasped. The image shifted and changed, showing paths of light that led to hidden places across his world. "These paths," the Queen explained, "will help you reach what your people need. Only the brave, those who trust in the light, can follow them. You must remember everything the orb teaches you, Rayan. Time is short, and the shadows are moving faster than you know." Rayan studied the map carefully. He saw shapes that looked like mountains, forests, rivers, and cities. Each one glowed faintly as if waiting for someone to arrive. The orb pulsed again, and Rayan understood that it wanted him to choose the first place he would go. His mind raced. Where should he start? How could he know which path was the right one? Queen Leora's voice broke the silence. "Do not worry about the future, human. Focus on the moment. The orb will guide you when you step forward with courage. Fear only clouds judgment. Take your first step and the light will show the next." Rayan took a deep breath. He closed his eyes and focused on the warmth of the orb. Slowly, he stepped forward toward the waves. The orb glowed intensely, and a beam of light shot forward, stretching across the ocean toward a distant island. Rayan realized that this was his first destination. The shadows had not yet reached here, but they were close enough to be dangerous. He felt a mixture of fear and determination. He prepared a small raft he had found near the shore. It was old and worn, but sturdy enough for the short journey across the water. The orb hovered beside him, glowing softly as if reassuring him that he would not be alone. The waves were gentle, but each one seemed to push him forward and backward, testing his balance. Rayan's hands shook, but he focused on the light of the orb. Step by step, he guided the raft through the water, letting the light show him the safest path. As he traveled, he noticed strange shapes in the water. Dark forms twisted beneath the surface, moving quickly and silently. Rayan's breath caught. The shadows were already here, following him, testing him. The orb glowed brighter, sending waves of warmth that pushed the shadows back. "I will not fear you," Rayan whispered. "I will not let you stop me." By the time he reached the island, the sun had begun to set, painting the sky with shades of red and gold. The island was small, covered with strange plants that shimmered faintly in the last light of day. Rayan stepped onto the sand carefully, the orb floating above him like a tiny sun. He noticed markings on the ground, lines and symbols etched into the stone. They looked like ancient writings, but somehow he could understand their meaning. The orb pulsed, guiding him toward a small cave at the edge of the island. Inside the cave, the air was cool and still. Rayan held the orb close, letting it illuminate the dark space. On the walls, glowing symbols appeared, forming words and shapes he had never seen before. As he touched them, the orb transmitted knowledge directly into his mind. He saw visions of distant stars, planets with strange creatures, and paths of energy connecting one world to another. Each vision was filled with a sense of purpose and urgency. He understood now why he had been chosen. Suddenly, a low hum filled the cave. Shadows began to move along the walls, dark forms that seemed to twist and grow. Rayan froze, but the orb pulsed brightly, casting a protective light. The shadows hissed, trying to reach him, but the light pushed them back. He realized that fear was their weapon. If he remained calm and focused, he could resist them. He took a deep breath, centering himself, and the shadows receded. Hours passed as Rayan explored the cave, following the guidance of the orb. He discovered hidden chambers filled with glowing crystals, each one containing a piece of knowledge from the stars. The orb pulsed when he approached, directing him to the crystals that were most important. Slowly, he absorbed the knowledge, learning about energy, light, and the balance of worlds. He began to understand how the shadows could be stopped, though the task seemed immense. As the night grew darker, Rayan felt tired but determined. The orb glowed softly, almost like it was encouraging him to rest. He found a small ledge inside the cave and sat down, letting the knowledge settle in his mind. Even in sleep, he could feel the orb guiding him, showing him paths he had not yet seen. The shadows were still out there, waiting for him, but he no longer felt powerless. He was learning, and each lesson made him stronger. When he woke, the first light of dawn illuminated the cave. The orb pulsed gently, signaling that it was time to continue. Rayan stood, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The shadows were patient, and they would not give up easily, but he was ready to face them. He knew now that courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Rayan left the island with a clear sense of direction. The orb guided him across the water again, toward the next place marked on the map. Each step of the journey was teaching him patience, focus, and the importance of trust, not just in the orb, but in himself. He began to realize that he was becoming someone capable of facing the darkness, someone the Queen had seen long before he had believed it in himself. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Rayan noticed a strange change in the waves. Dark mist formed on the horizon, moving toward him slowly. The shadows had not forgotten him, but he felt no fear. The orb glowed brightly, and he focused on its light. Step by step, he moved forward, guiding the raft through the water with calm determination. The shadows recoiled, unable to touch him as long as he trusted in the orb. By the time he reached the next shore, Rayan felt stronger than ever. The journey was not easy, but every challenge had taught him something new. He knew that the shadows would grow stronger and that more obstacles awaited him, but he also knew that he had been chosen for a reason. The Queen's words echoed in his mind. Focus on the moment. Fear only clouds judgment. Take your first step, and the light will show the next. Standing on the sand, Rayan looked at the orb, which glowed with warmth and encouragement. He understood now that this was only the beginning. The shadows were coming, the dangers were real, and the future of his world rested on his courage, but he was no longer afraid. He had seen the light, and he had followed it. With a deep breath, Rayan took the first step onto the path marked by the orb. He did not know what awaited him, but he was ready. The shadows would not stop him. The darkness could not reach him as long as he had the light. And somewhere far above, beyond the sky he could see, Queen Lyra watched silently, knowing that the human she had chosen was learning the lessons that would one day save his world. Rayan stepped onto the new shore, the orb floating beside him like a tiny guiding sun. The air was heavier here, as if the shadows he had felt before were closer now. He could sense a silent presence moving through the trees, hiding in the shadows, watching every step. But he no longer felt the fear that had gripped him before. The orb pulsed warmly, reminding him that he was not alone. The path ahead was not easy. The island he had reached was wild and overgrown, with dense forests that blocked the sunlight and twisted vines that made walking difficult. Strange sounds echoed around him, low growls, rustling leaves, and the distant calls of creatures he had never seen. Rayan gripped the orb tightly. He knew he had to move carefully or he could be trapped. As he walked, he noticed markings on the ground, faint symbols etched into stones and tree bark. They glowed softly as he approached. The orb pulsed, and Rayan understood that these markings were a message from Queen Lyra. They guided him, showing the safest way through the forest. Step by step, he followed the glowing symbols, feeling the forest open just enough for him to pass. Hours passed, and the sun climbed high in the sky. Rayan stopped to rest near a small stream. The orb floated above the water, casting gentle light across the rocks. He watched the water ripple, reflecting the orb's glow, and thought about everything he had learned so far. The memories in the orb were slowly making sense, teaching him about the balance of light and darkness and about courage. He realized that he had grown stronger since leaving his village. He was no longer just a frightened human. He was becoming someone capable of facing the shadows that threatened his world. As evening approached, the shadows began to stir. Dark shapes moved among the trees, twisting and stretching as if alive. Rayan could feel their hunger, their desire to reach him. He gripped the orb tightly and it glowed brighter, pushing the shadows back. He whispered to himself, "I will not let you touch me. I am not afraid." The shadows hissed and recoiled, unable to enter the light of the orb. Night fell and the forest grew darker. The shadows became bolder, testing him with whispers and flickering movements at the edges of his vision. Rayan felt the fear trying to creep back into his heart, but he focused on the orb's glow. Its light was steady and warm, reminding him that courage was stronger than fear. He moved slowly, carefully, following the guidance of the glowing symbols etched into the ground. In the middle of the night, Rayan came to a clearing. The moonlight reflected off a strange formation of stones arranged in a circle. The orb floated above the center, pulsing with urgency. As he stepped closer, the air around him grew colder and the shadows gathered at the edges of the clearing. He could feel them pressing in, trying to intimidate him, to make him flee. Rayan took a deep breath and focused on the orb. It pulsed brightly, sending waves of warmth that pushed the shadows back. He stepped into the circle of stones and the orb hovered above him, casting a wide light that filled the clearing. Symbols appeared on the stones, glowing with a soft silver light. They formed patterns that Rayan could feel more than see, patterns that spoke directly to his mind. He realized that this was a test, a challenge set by the Queen. The shadows had followed him here to see if he could withstand fear and remain calm under pressure. Rayan closed his eyes, focused on the light, and let the warmth of the orb fill his entire being. The shadows hissed and twisted, but they could not enter the circle. He felt a sense of calm wash over him. He was learning to trust himself and the orb completely. Hours passed as he stayed in the clearing, meditating with the orb. The shadows tried again and again to frighten him, but each time he focused on the light, their power weakened. Slowly, he began to understand that fear was their only weapon. If he could remain calm and courageous, they could not harm him. The orb pulsed in approval, and he felt a surge of confidence. At dawn, the shadows finally receded, retreating into the forest. The orb glowed softly as if congratulating him. Rayan stepped out of the circle, feeling stronger and more determined than ever. He knew that the journey ahead would be more difficult, but he also knew that he could face whatever came his way, as long as he trusted in the light. The next part of his journey led him up a steep hill that overlooked the entire island. From the top, he could see the vast ocean stretching to the horizon and the forests he had passed through. The landscape was beautiful, but he could also see the shadows lurking at the edges, waiting for him to make a mistake. The orb glowed brightly, guiding him forward. As he descended the hill, Rayan noticed a narrow path leading into a valley. The air here was thick and heavy, almost as if the shadows had grown stronger. The orb pulsed, warning him to stay alert. He stepped carefully, moving slowly and listening to the faint sounds around him. Every rustle, every whisper in the wind could have been a shadow trying to reach him. Suddenly, a low growl came from the trees. Rayan froze. From the darkness, two shadow creatures emerged, twisting and shifting in the pale light. They had no eyes, no faces, only dark, swirling forms. The shadows moved quickly toward him, their energy pulsing with hunger. Rayan's heart pounded, but he lifted the orb high. It glowed brightly, casting a protective light around him. The shadows hissed and twisted, trying to enter the light, but they could not. Rayan stepped forward, holding the orb firmly. "I will not be afraid," he said aloud. The orb pulsed even brighter, sending waves of warmth that pushed the shadows back. The creatures recoiled, retreating into the trees. Rayan realized that the orb was not only a guide but also a shield. Its light protected him as long as he remained courageous and focused. He continued through the valley, following the orb's guidance. The journey was exhausting, but with each step, Rayan felt stronger. The shadows tried again, moving silently, whispering doubts and fears into his mind, but he ignored them. He focused on the orb, on the light, and on the lessons he had learned from Queen Lyra. Step by step, he moved closer to the next destination marked by the glowing symbols. By evening, Rayan reached a river that was wide and fast. He could see no bridge, no path across. The shadows were gathering on the far bank, waiting for him to hesitate. The orb floated above the water, pulsing brightly. Rayan understood that this was another test. He had to trust the light, trust himself, and move forward. Carefully, he found a section of the river with rocks and shallow water. Step by step he crossed, balancing on slippery stones, the orb guiding him every moment. When he reached the other side, the shadows hissed and twisted, but they could not touch him. The orb glowed warmly, rewarding his courage. Rayan smiled despite his exhaustion. He had survived another challenge. Each step, each trial, was making him stronger and more prepared for the battles ahead. As night fell, Rayan camped near a small cave at the riverbank. The orb floated beside him, casting a soft, protective light. He felt the shadows pressing in from the darkness outside, but he was no longer afraid. He understood now that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to face it. He closed his eyes and let the warmth of the orb soothe him, preparing for the next day's journey. He dreamed of the Queen and the stars, of distant worlds and glowing paths that stretched across the universe. The orb pulsed in his dreams, showing him visions of light and hope. He awoke at dawn with a renewed sense of purpose, ready to continue his journey. The shadows were growing closer, but he knew that he had learned to face them with courage and trust. Rayan stood at the entrance of the cave, the orb glowing brightly above him. The forest ahead was dense and full of unknown dangers, but he was ready. Every challenge, every test had prepared him for this moment. The path would not be easy, but he would continue, guided by the light, trusting in himself and knowing that Queen Lyra watched from above. The shadows were patient, and they would not give up easily. But Rayan was stronger now, braver now, and more determined than ever. With the orb leading the way, he stepped into the forest, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The journey was far from over, but he knew that he could overcome anything as long as he followed the light. And somewhere high above, beyond the stars, he could see Queen Lyra smiled softly, knowing that the human she had chosen was learning the strength, courage, and wisdom that would one day protect his world. Rayan walked through the dense forest, the orb floating steadily beside him. Its warm light illuminated the path, casting shadows that twisted and stretched with every step. The journey had been long, and the trials he had faced had tested him in ways he never imagined. But each challenge had made him stronger. Now, as he neared the place where the sky met the water, he could feel the anticipation in the air. The wind carried a faint whisper, gentle but urgent, as if calling him forward. The forest began to thin, revealing a vast open plain. Beyond it, the ocean stretched endlessly, shimmering under the light of the rising sun. The place Queen Lyra had spoken of lay ahead. Rayan's heart raced with a mixture of fear, excitement, and determination. He had come far, faced shadows and darkness, and learned to trust in the light of the orb. But he knew this final step would be the most important. The shadows were no longer distant. Dark forms moved silently over the land and water, swirling in strange patterns that sent shivers down his spine. They hissed and twisted, trying to intimidate him, but Rayan held the orb high. Its light pulsed and expanded, pushing the shadows back and creating a protective bubble around him. He remembered the Queen's words. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Rayan took a deep breath and began walking toward the shoreline. The sand beneath his feet was cool and smooth, reflecting the orb's glow. Each step felt heavier than the last, but he kept moving, focusing on the warmth of the light. The shadows hissed and twisted, but they could not touch him. He understood now that his strength came not only from the orb, but from his courage and belief in himself. As he approached the water's edge, the orb floated ahead, pulsing with urgency. The waves glimmered under the sunlight, stretching infinitely to meet the sky. Rayan realized this was the place the Queen had spoken of, the horizon where the sea and sky touched, a place where the final part of his journey would unfold. He stepped into the shallow water, feeling it cool against his feet. The orb's light expanded, spreading across the waves, creating a path that led forward. Suddenly, a figure appeared above the water. Queen Lyra shimmered in silver light, her presence calm but commanding. "Rayan," she said softly, her voice carrying over the waves. "You have come far and faced many challenges. Now the final step is before you. You must use what you have learned to protect your world." Rayan swallowed hard. I will try," he said, though a small part of him trembled with doubt. "Tell me what I must do." Queen Lyra's eyes glowed with a gentle intensity. "The shadows you have faced are only a part of what is coming. They are patient, persistent, and hungry for fear, but you have learned to resist them. You have learned courage, focus, and trust. Now you must channel the light of the orb into the crystal hidden in this place. Only then can the balance be restored." The orb pulsed brighter and floated toward the center of the shallow water. Rayan followed carefully, keeping the orb steady. The water shimmered, reflecting strange patterns of light that danced across the waves. In the center of the horizon, a crystal emerged from the ocean, glowing faintly but radiating an energy that made Rayan feel both awe and urgency. He reached the crystal and placed the orb beside it. The light from the orb spread into the crystal, filling it with warmth and brilliance. The shadows hissed and twisted, swirling around the edges of the light, but they could not enter. The crystal began to grow brighter, radiating a powerful energy that spread across the ocean and sky. Rayan felt a surge of strength flowing through him. Suddenly, dark shapes rose from the water, larger and more menacing than before. The shadows had gathered their full power for a final attack. Rayan felt a moment of fear, but he focused on the orb and the lessons he had learned. Courage and trust filled him, and the light of the orb expanded, creating a protective shield around him. The shadows collided with the light and recoiled, unable to penetrate the brilliance. Rayan raised his hands, letting the orb's energy flow fully into the crystal. Light and warmth spread outward, pushing the shadows back over the waves and across the horizon. The sky brightened, the clouds dissipated, and the ocean shimmered with calm and peace. The shadows shrieked and twisted one last time before vanishing entirely, leaving the world free from darkness. Breathing heavily, Rayan stepped back and watched the crystal glow steadily in the sunlight. The orb floated beside him, pulsing softly, as if acknowledging his courage and determination. He felt a sense of peace wash over him, a quiet satisfaction that came from knowing he had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. Queen Lyra appeared again, her form shimmering above the crystal. "You have done well, Rayan," she said softly. "You have faced the shadows, trusted in the light, and protected your world. This crystal will maintain balance and keep the darkness at bay for your people. You have proven that humans are capable of courage and strength beyond what they imagine." Rayan bowed slightly, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "Thank you, Queen Lyra," he said. "I could not have done it without your guidance. And without the orb." The Queen's smile was gentle. "The orb guided you, but it was your courage and determination that made the difference. Remember, Rayan, the light is always within you. You have learned to trust it, and now it will guide others when you cannot be there. You have become more than a human who saw the light. You have become a protector of your world." Rayan felt a warm glow inside him. He realized that his journey had changed him completely. He was no longer the frightened boy who had frozen at the Queen's first question. He was confident, capable, and ready to face whatever came next. The lessons of courage, trust, and focus would stay with him forever. The crystal continued to glow, spreading light across the ocean and sky. The shadows had vanished completely, leaving the world calm and peaceful. Rayan took one last look at the horizon, feeling gratitude for the journey, for the orb, and for Queen Lyra's guidance. He knew that challenges would come again, but he also knew that he was ready. The Queen's voice spoke softly once more. "Perhaps one day when your people are ready, you will see me again. Until then, trust the light and continue to protect your world. You have begun a journey that will inspire others. Rayan." Never forget the lessons you have learned. The light around Queen Lyra shimmered and slowly faded, leaving Rayan standing beside the glowing crystal. The orb hovered beside him, pulsing gently, and he understood that its guidance was still with him, always ready to help when he needed it. Rayan walked along the shore, feeling the sand beneath his feet and the warmth of the sunlight on his skin. He looked out over the calm ocean, reflecting on everything that had happened. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had taught him bravery, patience, and the power of trust. He realized that even ordinary humans could achieve extraordinary things when guided by courage and light. As he returned to the shore near the village, Rayan knew that life would continue, but he would never be the same again. He had seen the stars, met the alien queen, faced the shadows, and learned to trust in himself. The orb floated gently beside him, reminding him that the light would always be with him. Rayan looked up at the sky, feeling a sense of hope and promise. Somewhere far above, beyond the clouds and stars, Queen Lyra watched silently, proud of the human she had chosen. He smiled, feeling connected to something greater than himself, knowing that the world was safe for now, and that courage, trust, and light could overcome even the darkest shadows. The sea was calm, the sky was bright, and the orb pulsed gently beside him. Rayan knew his journey was complete, but the lessons and courage he had gained would last forever. The shadows had been defeated, and the light would continue to guide humanity. Thanks to the bravery of one human who had dared to trust the stars. And in that quiet, peaceful moment, Rayan understood the meaning of the Queen's first words. "Are you alone, human?" He was never truly alone. The light, the orb, the stars, and the Queen's guidance would always be with him. And with that knowledge, he stepped forward into the new day, ready to live a life full of courage, hope, and endless possibilities.